Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining me on. It's only the second of my vlogs ever, and it's been a while. A lot of things have happened, and I'm quite keen to do a little bit of a recap of the last year, because a lot has gone on at Gamestah, and I've got quite a bit to say about it. So hopefully you'll stick around for the whole show. Hopefully it won't be too long, and hopefully it'll set the scene as well for future vlogs as well, because I want to be doing these more regularly, because I have a lot to say. So yeah, first a shout out to, man, I don't even know how to pronounce his name. We've never met. Majin Dabura, something like that, the owner of Corvidae. He did a vlog a while ago called, well, I can't remember what it was called, but the theme of it was basically just do it. You know, if you've been planning on doing something, you should just be doing it. Don't waste any more time. Don't wait for things to fall into place, because they're not. You need to do it. And yeah, that was a pretty cool thing. It really connected with me, and it's really one of the reasons why I'm doing the doing this. So I'm going to try and link to Majin's video where he does this. He's doing a whole series, Murder Business or something like that, and it's quite good. Yeah, so definitely worth watching. So shout out to Majin, if that's how you pronounce your name, dude. So all right, so without further ado, let's get ourselves into what I'm going to be talking about today. So essentially, I'm going to be going through Gamestah's story for 2016. So yeah, so we'll talk about Gamestah in 2016 in kind of general terms, and then I want to kind of zone in on a little bit on what we did with OCE Overwatch, or our approach to OCE Overwatch anyway. And then I want to do some shout outs and thank yous to a lot of the people that were involved with us this year, and then maybe talk about what's coming up, both for this vlog series and for Gamestah in 2017, without giving too much away, because obviously it's all still in plans. And one thing I've got to learn to do is stop telling people about what we're going to do, because people seem to like to take advantage of that, integrate it into their own plans. So yeah, so let's talk about the story so far. So so prior to 2016, Gamestah was a broadcasting organization. That's all that we did. Our roots were in the days of the Shoutcast, the Winamp plugin, the Shoutcast plugin, and we started off when esports was in its infancy. We didn't even call it esports really back in those days. It was competitive gaming, or whatever you want to call it. It was about 10 years ago. Lots of different organizations running competitions and tournaments and things like that, and all we did was broadcasting, and we did that for years and years and years and years and years. And I have to say, I have a great deal of responsibility for being the one that has held Gamestah back for probably the better part of about 5 years, because the writing has been on the wall in the esports scene for a long time about pure broadcasting corporations or organizations, or shoutcasting organizations as we used to call them. And what I mean by that is increasingly content is becoming like a gateway. Access to content is becoming a gateway, and a source of control and a source of power within our scene. And various people wield control or access to that content in different ways, some altruistically, some self-interestedly, that sort of thing. But the point being is that organizations have really taken a lot more ownership of their content, and they've been less interested in allowing just anybody, or not even just anybody, even a reputable organization, to broadcast their content. It's as simple as that. Now, for years and years and years, internally at Gamestah, we insisted that we were an independent broadcasting organization, and we would broadcast anybody's content for them. And the world as we saw it was this world where there were all sorts of organizations that were trying to throw out competitions, run competitions, and they were not necessarily not interested, but didn't have the capability or the time to do the broadcasting as well. And so we had positioned ourselves as these guys where, you know, we were an outsource shop. If you needed broadcasting, you came to us and you just handed it over to us, and we took care of it for you. And we felt as though we delivered a great service. It was like the one thing you could forget about and know that it would be done well, because Gamestah was doing it. And I insisted that in order for us to do that job as well as we possibly could, we had to be completely independent. And by completely independent, I mean we have no conflicts of interest in terms of the content that we were broadcasting. And so we never produced our own content. We only produced other people's content. So, and when I'm talking about content, what I mean is an esports match, an esports tournament, a series of tournaments, or whatever you want to call them. So, you know, we felt if Gamestah was running our own leagues and broadcasting our own leagues, there would be a conflict of interest in us doing that, in terms of us casting somebody else's leagues, like Cybergamer or whoever, Got Games, or whoever it might be. And that's absolutely true. If you think about it, you know, given the choice between a tournament that Gamestah is running, that Gamestah has organized sponsors for, that Gamestah is putting personnel investing personnel and time and resource into it, versus somebody else's tournament, which is going to benefit us the most? It's going to be our own tournament. So theoretically, there's the risk that we would do a better job with our own tournament, and we'd be motivated to do a better job with our own tournament than somebody else's tournament. It's a simple fact that, you know, we want sponsors to come to us and be attracted to what we are doing. And if we're broadcasting other people's content, well, then, you know, we're actually advertising their content, and why would sponsors come to us instead of sponsors going to the other organization that was actually running the league? And in fact, I mean, we even took this concept so as far as our initial approaches to sponsors were broadcast sponsors. So we looked for sponsors that were interested in sponsoring Gamestah, and the idea that we had was we were going to have a group of sponsors that would always work with Gamestah. So when we bid for the broadcasting rights of somebody else's tournament, part of the attraction of that was we could say, well, we're bringing these sponsors with us, and the sponsors will contribute to your tournament the following things. So it was this weird kind of, you know, the foundation of it was that we wanted to be independent and be a kind of somebody that was available to do the broadcasting for everybody else, but at the same time, almost like putting ourselves as a brand kind of marketing agency, without actually realizing that that was what we were trying to do. It was we hadn't really like gone into we hadn't taken the thinking as far as it needed to go. Anyway, it just didn't work. Okay, as I say, when you are generating your own content, when you're running your own tournaments and your own leagues, there's an intrinsic value in that league that broadcasters want to access. So, when Gamestah approaches somebody like Cybergamer and says, we'd like to broadcast your stuff, Cybergamer knows that they have a gateway that they've got to open for Gamestah to go through. And I'm just using Cybergamer. Everybody knows Cybergamer. This is, you know, there's no criticism of Cybergamer in this description. So they've got a gateway, and they can lift the gateway and let us through, or they can close the gateway and let us through. And that's all very well and good when you've got great relationships, or when you've got premier access, or whatever the case may be. But it's not so great when you lose that access. And that's happened to us a number of times over the years, where we would be broadcasting content for somebody, doing a great job, we felt, of it, and then they decided, actually, we don't want you to do it, we want somebody else to do it. And invariably, it wasn't necessarily somebody else, it was, we want to bring it in-house. And yeah, that's just happens. I mean, I could list them off, but I'm not going to, because this part of the video isn't really about generating controversy or anything like that. It's just the simple fact of the matter is that time and time again, Gamestah would get involved in a community or with an organization. We'd do this fantastic job of broadcasting, and we knew that we did a fantastic job because the signs were there, the numbers were there, that sort of thing. And what essentially ended up happening was we get pushed out by one or other group. And that happened enough times for us to go, actually, this is just, it's not working. And I finally cracked this year, where I finally read the writing on the wall, and I finally actually said, you know what, this business of us trying to maintain independence to keep conflicts of interest out of the way is not working, because we're acting as though we're behaving in a fashion that we believe balances our own self-interest with the interests of the other organization, and that's not actually how the other organizations are working. The other organizations are working from pure self-interest. In my experience, the number of times that I've connected with individuals or organizations in Oceanic esports where we are both working from that same position of mutual interests, I can count that on my hand, and probably half a hand is the reality. Most of the organizations that I have dealt with, in fact, most of the individuals, most of the organizations that I've dealt with over the years, and it's a 10-year period just about, there's been an imbalance where the other organizations have had self-interest. They might have had some mutual interest, but you know, if it's a sliding scale, you've got there you go. You've got self-interest over here, and you've got mutual interest over here. Most people are not over here, where they're working from a position of mutual interest. Most people are well over on the self-interested side, and it just so happens that occasionally my self-interest and my sense of mutual interest fits in with their self-interest, that's life. That's the fact of the matter. I mean, I know how it is. I'm not complaining about it. Acting as though acting in the best interests of everybody only works when everybody is acting in the best interests of everybody. And so Gamestah reached that crossroads at the beginning of this year, and it was a personal crossroads for me as well, where I said, it's not working. We can't continue pretending that people will act with not just their own interests at heart, but will act also with our interests at heart. It's just not going to happen. So we took the plunge, and we decided we were going to start running our own tournaments. And the first tournament that we ran, we got it there on screen, is HEYGRL. So the GRL was the Gamestah Rocket League tournament, and we just called it HEYGRL. It was something that Neba came up with, and it was a nice hashtag. It was like, hey girl, and I did a whole bunch of promos using who's that duck guy? Ryan Gosling, hey girl, that sort of thing. They were a bit cheesy, but it was great fun. It was our first tournament. It was a Rocket League tournament. It was a round robin, group stage round robin with a single elimination grand final, and it was a huge success for us. We put $250 in. So what we did was we said to the community, we're gonna run this tournament. We've got $250 that we'll put towards it, but we're only going to match dollar for dollar the donations that the community puts in. And we had some good donations that came through. A couple of organizations, I think Erase might have donated. I know that Ripple Esports donated. I put in $50 of my own money, as opposed to $50 of Gamestah's money. Bizer put in $50 as well. And I can't remember who else it was that put money in. We got a couple of donations through our Twitch alerts at that time. It's now Streamlabs donation button, and we got up to $250 from the community, and we matched it dollar for dollar. So we had a $500 prize pool, which is, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's really small, but it was a tremendously successful tournament. It was so much fun. It was a great experience in terms of our first tournament. It was small enough for it to not be very complicated. You know, Rocket League teams are 3 apiece. There's not a lot of people to corral, that kind of thing, and it just had great buzz around it. And I got to say, a lot of the buzz and the success of that came from the community that we were involved in. The Rocket League community is just a lovely group of people in general, and they threw their support behind it. And even today, so 6 months later, every now and again, I'll get a message on Steam saying, "Hey, when's the next season of GRL?" Which we'll talk about later on in the what's coming up. So that was HEYGRL. It was fantastic. And the beauty of the GRL was that it gave us really good stats. And if you've watched my previous vlog that's on Gamestah TV, you will know how critical statistics are. You need to be able to talk to sponsors about what you can deliver to them, and so we needed to be able to do that. This was like breaking brand new ground for us. We needed something where we could go to a sponsor and we could say, this is when we do a tournament and we do the broadcasting for the tournament, we can deliver this value to your brand, and we couldn't do that until we did GRL. So in terms of an investment of $250, it was well worth it, because we got the foundational stats that we got. The other thing that we did was the Ember series for Heroes of the Storm. So that's the second item there, Hot Ember. So Heroes of the Storm, we had been approached some months before by Chris Pulse from Jam Gaming to say, hey, wouldn't you like to get involved in the Heroes of the Storm scene? So I'm not sure if at the time Jam had a HOTS roster or what the story was, but essentially there was one person really who was driving. Well, it seemed, okay, so like I don't know too much about the HOTS community before we got involved in it, but as far as we understood, there was one person who was driving most of the esports side of stuff. That was Disconquer, and he was absolutely tireless. He was running all sorts of tournaments. He manages ANZ Heroes online, all of that sort of thing, and he was really the beginning and the end of community-based Heroes of the Storm esports. So of course Blizzard was involved. They had their regionals that were going, and they were putting good money to it even at that early stage. But you know, one person is one person, one organization is one organization. So anyway, so Pulse said, don't you want to do some stuff in Heroes of the Storm? And we sort of chatted, had a look at it, and I don't know, EJ and I loaded the game and we started playing it a bit, and I thought to myself, I can't learn another MOBA. I can't. I'm coming out of playing League of Legends for, what was it then, like 4 years, and broadcasting League of Legends and basically banging our head against a brick wall with trying to build a sustainable League of Legends division, and get involved with something more than kind of piecemeal tournaments that get thrown our way. I was just, I was getting PTSD, not to minimize actual PTSD, but I didn't want to learn another MOBA, and so we kind of didn't do anything. Anyway, a few months later, we got approached by some guys that were casters of Heroes of the Storm, and they said, listen, we want to cast Heroes of the Storm. We want more competitive stuff going on. We don't want to run tournaments, and we don't want to worry about production. We literally want to broadcast. We want to commentate. And that was, of course, Skimmy and Starving who approached us with that. And so we said, well, okay, well, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a totally different story. If we're going to be running the production and running the tournaments, and you guys are going to be casting, I don't have to learn the game. I mean, the principles of doing, you know, film work and production, the production side of a MOBA is pretty much, it's pretty easy. I mean, it's not that it's easy. It's common across, you know, from one to the other. And oh, hang on, take that off as well, and that. So so I said, yeah, let's go for it. And we got these. We took the same approach as with GRL, and where we put. Oh no, actually we didn't. I've got these the wrong order around. So HEYGRL came after JAMSTAH. So I'll just talk about, I'll talk about JAMSTAH in more detail. But essentially with HEYGRL, what we said was, we'll put up some weekly prize money. We'll see how it goes with the community and see if we can start building something here. And we put up $50 a week. And we gave that away each week. It was basically weekly pickup tournaments. And we sort of got, I don't know, it was mixed. We got maybe 4 tops 5 teams entering, that sort of stuff, but it was a mixed success. We were doing broadcasting every week. We were putting in like 3 or 4 hours worth of, providing 3 or 4 hours of competitive Heroes of the Storm esports. It was great. And with Disconquer doing his stuff on weekends with ODCs and things like that, and us doing our things on Tuesday nights, kind of a weekly thing, it was kind of looking pretty healthy, I felt, for the scene. You know, we 2 organizations now that are going at it, and you know, $60, $50 a week. It's not much, but it's something. You know, it's something to play for, that sort of thing. And that was hot Ember. And it was quite good. You know, we started doing things like giveaways, skin giveaways, that sort of stuff during the cast, that sort of thing. So it was just another good experience in terms of running tournaments and that sort of thing. So we go back to, oops, oh yeah, let's get that going. So then there's JAMSTAH. Now, JAMSTAH was our first foray into Overwatch. Now, I didn't have the beta of Overwatch. I had no idea whether it was going to be good or not. Heard some of the buzz, but had no idea. This is somebody who'd been playing a MOBA for 5 years. I hadn't touched TF2 since back then. And then I played Rocket League. Rocket League was the thing that lifted the veil off my eyes and showed me there was something outside of League of Legends, thank God. And so Overwatch was coming. And we had no idea what it was going to be like. But Pulse, again, approached us. And Pulse said, we are looking to partner with somebody. Jam is looking to partner with somebody to bring some competitive Overwatch to the region, and we'd like it to be you. So that was fantastic. Shout out to Pulse. That was awesome of him. And what he had originally proposed was, he had proposed like $60 a week for 3 or 4 weeks. And so I said, well, was it $60? I can't remember exactly how much he wanted to put forward. Anyway, we decided we'd put $60 a week ourselves in. I think it must have been $60 a week. And we discussed things, and eventually Pulse and I settled on a format where we were going to have 5 weeks of competition. And each week we'd give away that $120. And it was an interesting experience. So because they were weekly and they were independent, in fact, I think I've got some. Now's good enough a time to actually look at OCE Overwatch, because this is kind of where we are. So, in fact, no, I'll just go back. So JAMSTAH happened. It was a different format every single week. A lot of the format changes were motivated by trying to reduce a midweek tournament from being a 5-hour event. I think, in fact, our first one was 6 hours. It was like double elimination. Double elimination. We had like 30 teams. It was just nuts. And it took us 6 hours to complete. So that was like 4 a.m. here in New Zealand when we finished, and it was just madness. So we tweaked how things went from week to week, and eventually we settled on a format, and it was something like best of one single elimination for the first 2 rounds, and then best of 3 for the semi-finals, and best of 3 for the finals or something. I can't remember. Anyway, it was great fun. It was awesome fun, and the OCE Overwatch community got behind it. They showed up every week. They played some fantastic Overwatch. And again, the key thing for JAMSTAH for us was the statistics that we were able to pull out of it. So by the time JAMSTAH came along, we'd had the experience of HEYGRL. We kind of figured out what our approach was to tournaments and the marketing of those tournaments and things like that. And so we were able to apply that to JAMSTAH. And JAMSTAH gave us such incredibly good statistics that we were able to put a proposal through to ZOWIE, and ZOWIE accepted that proposal based on the numbers that we said we could get as a projection from what we'd experienced with GRL and with JAMSTAH, and I don't think Ember by then. Yeah, Ember was still a little bit later. So they weren't included in the stats. But it was fantastic. And I can't say that we approached ZOWIE and said, be our sponsors. ZOWIE was looking for sponsors, and I've got to give credit where credit's due. Jam pointed ZOWIE to Gamestah. And shout out to Dan, the sales manager for Oceania at ZOWIE. He took our proposal, he went through it, and he said, yeah, that's fantastic. And I got to say, I took a real punt there in that proposal. I thought I was being real ballsy asking for 12 monitors to give away. We asked for 12 monitors, and we asked for $600 in cash from ZOWIE. And ZOWIE just went, yep, cool. They did say to us, well, we don't want you to take those monitors. We've had, we're just working through getting those. They're the model is too new, so we want to make sure that we're putting out our best products at the moment. And so they did change the proposal or respond to the proposal in that way. But nevertheless, it was fantastic. And ZOWIESTAH was great. We got about, if we take impressions, we got about 250,000 impressions out of ZOWIESTAH. So if you watched my vlog on sponsorships, I go to great lengths to talk about impressions and why they're important. And so yeah, we got about 250,000. It was just short of that. I think it was about 220,000 impressions out of ZOWIESTAH, which was fantastic. We reported on that to ZOWIE, and they were very pleased. So that was great. And on the strength of that, we approached them and asked them to sponsor us again, which they did. And so we ran the spring series, and I will go into the spring series at quite a bit of length because there was a bit of drama there, to say the least. But the spring series, by all accounts, was successful. We effectively doubled our broadcasting success, I would say. So we hit about 500,000 impressions with that, and we were really pleased. And I haven't actually heard back from ZOWIE. I sent them the report on Thursday or Friday, maybe. So we'll see what they say to that, and hopefully they were quite pleased. And of course, the spring series was wasn't just sponsored by Zowie, so Zowie sponsored it. We also had Split Media Labs come on board, and they of course provide XSplit, Play.me, and Challenge, and they gave us XSplit licenses as prizes. Now, you know, for HEYGRL, we put up $250 of our own money, total prize pool of $500. Hotsember, I think we did 8 maybe series of that, $50 a week, $200, $400. Get my maths right. $400. That was great. JAMSTAH, $60 a week plus jams, $60 a week over a 5-week period, so that's $600. ZOWIESTAH, we put in money ourselves, so on a weekly basis. So we had a first and a second prize. So Zowie put up the first prize on a weekly basis of cash, and we put up the second prize. And then they put up the monitors for the big final series wins for first and second place. And the total prize pool of ZOWIESTAH was just over $8,000. I think it was like 7,200 plus 900 in cash. So 7,200 in monitors, 900 in cash. So around about $8,000, give or take. And then the spring series comes along. And the thing is, the spring series was a mixed success, okay? The spring series is supposed to be 3 titles. It was supposed to be Overwatch, Rocket League, and Heroes of the Storm. And so far, we've only done Overwatch. And across all of those titles, we had a wide range of prizes. And we were looking at giving away between $12,000 and $15,000 in total worth of prizes. Now, we haven't done Rocket League, and we haven't done Heroes of the Storm. But Overwatch, we gave away, I think it was $4,800 in prizes, something like that. So teams entered, $120 per team. And Zowie put up $4,800 in cash prizes. Yeah, so the cash prizes were close to, I think, 6,000. I can't remember. I should actually look this up. But anyway, it all worked out at about $10,000 worth of prizes. And I know it was about $10,000 because when we got to like 9,500, I was going, shoot, we've got to make it 10. We've got to put in a little bit extra just to get it to 10, because at the beginning of the year, when we first started and we put up that first $250, I had set myself a goal of Gamestah running its first $5,000 tournament by the end of 2017. So for us to be getting to the spring series after effectively 6 months of running our own tournament and to have a $10,000 prize pool it just blew my mind how we could do it. And this goes back to something that what I said right at the start of this was where in Majin's his vlog, where he said, just do it, just get out there and do it. If you've got a project in mind, just go and do it, because you will not believe the success that you can achieve simply by having a go. And that's what we did. We had a go. $250 at the start in terms of our own investment. So a $500 tournament, and at the end of the year, we had a tournament with $10,000 worth of prizes across 2 divisions, and it was meant to be 3 titles, only 1 title, and we still made $10,000. So, you know, not credit's not. I'm not taking all the credit here, because credit has to go to our sponsors, Split Media Labs and Zowie, and of course Plantronics, who also put up headset prizes throughout that period. You know, most of the prizes, the cash, that sort of thing, has come from our sponsors. But you know, we just went ahead. We gave it a go. We had some success. We started small, and we've grown, and it's fantastic. So yeah, just do it. So it was really satisfying, tremendously satisfying to be able to come to the end of the spring series and see that we, even with the drama and that sort of thing, to see that we'd been able to surpass our targets or our expectations, both in terms of our prize pool and in terms of what we could deliver to our sponsors in terms of promoting their brands. So it was fantastic. So that's where we are up until now. So it's now December, and let's dig into OCE Overwatch a little bit. So I wonder if this is going to be where people link to, because this is where maybe the controversial stuff comes in. Okay, so the approach that we took with OCE Overwatch, the foundations of that approach were twofold. The first one was our experience with the Rocket League community and how things went in terms of the community growth, the community spirit, how teams were operating, our involvement, other organizations' involvement, generally our experience, Gamestah's experience, and my experience as a player as well, because I played a lot of Rocket League as well. Gamestah had a social team that was entered in the Cyber Gamer ladder, that kind of stuff. So, and we'd seen what had happened, what seemed to work in that community, what didn't work, and that sort of thing. And we recognized that we had an opportunity, just like with Rocket League, which had started in, I think, October the year before, of 2015, we had another opportunity with Overwatch, a brand new game, a so-called brand new community, and we could really apply what we'd learned with Rocket League as a brand new game and a brand new community into the Overwatch community and see if we could kind of benefit the community. At the same time, we'd also experienced the Heroes of the Storm community, and that community has its issues. What the issues are in detail are for another series or another episode or whatever. But we'd seen what had happened with that community in terms of our involvement with it, and so we sort of wanted to try and avoid some of the pitfalls there. So our approach with OCE Overwatch wasn't haphazard. It was absolutely measured and planned. So each tournament that we ran, I had spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to achieve, not just in terms of the tournament itself, but also in terms of the impact on the community. And I guess in that sense, maybe a bit of delusions of grandeur. I really thought that I could have a positive influence on the community, for better or for worse, and probably one of those situations where I was still acting from what I thought was the mutual interests of the stakeholders in that community, and not just my own or Gamestah's self-interest. Now, I say that very carefully because I recognize that I'm inherently biased. People are inherently biased, and a lot of the time I might think that I'm acting towards other people's mutual interests, but probably I'm not. Not to say that I'm being a bastard or anything like that, but the fact of the matter is as human beings, we are governed by self-interest to a larger or lesser degree, and sometimes even when you think that you're not acting out of self-interest, you actually are. So I was acting from what I felt was the mutual interests, and not just of me and Gamestah, but of the community as a whole. And I guess that's an important thing to say, because I know that there are people in the Overwatch community who don't like Gamestah. It's very confusing to me. They don't like Gamestah, but they do. And there are individuals that probably feel as though they've been burnt by Gamestah, and they probably are justified in feeling that way. But it's not because I've wanted to be a bastard. It's not because I've looked at somebody or an organization, I've gone, I'm going to get you. I'm going to really fuck with you. That's not how I think, okay? I'm continually surprised when people fuck with me. It's like, why would somebody do that? But yeah, so no doubt there are people who feel hard done, either by actions that I've taken or actions that Gamestah have taken. And to be honest, as a co-owner of Gamestah, those two are not necessarily, they're not mutually exclusive. I mean, I am aware that when I tweet on my Twitter account, it doesn't matter. I can't say tweets on my own and do not represent Gamestah. They absolutely do, because I own Gamestah. So yeah, you might feel hard done by it, and I'm sorry that you do. Honestly, I have tried for all of my actions, all of the decisions that I've taken, to make them thinking about the best interests of others, as well as my own interest. You can scoff at that if you want, but that's the honest truth. Okay, so the approach that we took was a developmental approach, and I've got it summarized there right now. So we started off with JAMSTAH. It was a weekly pickup, independent, 1 week from the next sort of series of tournaments. So the only connection from the one tournament to the next was, whether somebody participated in it or not. So we could talk about them or not. And really there was one common thread through that, and was who will beat Chiefs. And in the end we know who beat Chiefs. So that was JAMSTAH. It was meant to be casual, with a little bit of incentive behind it, and it was also meant to provide a regular competitive outing for teams. And because it was weekly and independent, didn't matter what the rosters were, you could throw a roster together on the Tuesday, register, and you could play. Or you could compete from week to week and maintain the roster throughout that time and grow. It was entirely up to you. We didn't try any social engineering. We just said, we've got $120, we're going to give it to you as a prize. It's a winners take all tournament. We're going to fiddle around with the tournament structure, but the fiddling around is not to manipulate teams. It's simple. It was purely based on how much time the tournament was taking. So and the fact that it was a midweek tournament. So that was the approach, and as I say, it was tremendously successful for what it was. And then we went, okay, so that's great. Now what we've seen through the period of JAMSTAH is the teams that stuck together did better than the teams that didn't. Funny that. So team synergy was really important. But we knew at the time that the Overwatch scene was too new to expect all teams to suddenly have a fixed roster and to stay at that. The scene was still developing. And all of it, and we had to take that into account. So ZOWIE was kind of a hybrid. There was a weekly independent tournament that had a weekly cash prize, and if you participated on a weekly basis, you earned points that contributed to your league standing. And over time, at the end of the qualifying stage of the tournament, let's say, where teams on a weekly basis had been able to play for cash, there was now a final series, and you could qualify to play in the final series. So if you think about it, a team could form on the day, on the Monday, and they could play. I think it was the Monday. They could play on the Monday, and if they made it through to the playoffs of the week, which was on a Thursday, they could play on the Thursday, and they could win the cash, and then they could disband. There was absolutely no reason. There was no disadvantage to a teams competing from 1 week to the next in terms of what their roster looked like, whether it was stable, whether they made changes, whether they disbanded, whether they poached. It just didn't matter. Of course, we incentivized teams staying together by saying, well, that team with a core of 4, you get allocated points, and you keep your points from week to week, and they accumulate from week to week. And at the end of the series, you could get to the stage where you compete in this final series, and there's some big prizes, $7,000 worth of monitors that you could win. So there were incentives in place for teams to stick together and to play from week to week with a regular roster. And ZOWIESTAH worked really well. We had good community involvement. There was a little bit of an audience dip from JAMSTAH, because we went from JAMSTAH, we were the only ones that were doing tournaments, and then during ZOWIESTAH there was also Heroes League, and for whatever reason Heroes League decided to go. They tried to broadcast as much as they could, but they let teams decide when the teams were going to play. So that's completely different to our philosophy at Gamestah. So at Gamestah, we want teams to play on a specific night, and that's because we want to broadcast those teams playing. Whereas Heroes League Season 1, they decided that they were just going to broadcast whatever nights people were playing. And so there was a little bit of cannibalization on the part of Heroes League and on the part of us. So we took some of their audience on Mondays and Thursdays, and they took some of our audience on Mondays and Thursdays. So the audiences were split. So our stats on a weekly basis weren't necessarily as good as JAMSTAH, but we compensated with a great social media campaign, and we had a fantastic final series as well. And that made a big difference. So ZOWIESTAH, as I say, it was a format that really seemed to work. Obviously, there were some people that weren't so happy about it. You know, people got really, really angsty about Swiss format. The Swiss format Monday night qualifiers. Man, people get really into the maths of it, and they have personal opinions about exactly how Swiss format should or shouldn't work. And yeah, it's really tough. But you cannot beat Swiss format for accommodating as many teams as you possibly can, and just giving people competitive outings. And that was the other thing, you know, that carried over from JAMSTAH to ZOWIESTAH, was we wanted to give teams an opportunity to compete on a regular basis, and you know, regardless of their success the week before, going into the next week, we wanted them to be able to kind of like reset if they had to and still compete, and have really good, meaningful competitive experiences, shall we say. And ZOWIESTAH was good for that as well. So even though people got really angsty about Swiss format in its various guises, overall, a lot of teams came through our doors. Came through the tournament doors. A lot of teams played a lot of good Overwatch, and Gamestah got to broadcast it. It was fantastic. Then the spring series came, and so in terms of the evolution, where we go from weekly pickup and independent tournaments to what I call a pickup league, where you could have new teams each week accumulating points, we came to the spring series, and I, in my great wisdom, decided that the community was ready for a fixed roster league. Boy, was I wrong. Oh man. So we go through 3 qualifiers. 3 weeks of qualifiers. Was it 3 weeks, or was it... I think we had a qualifier on a Saturday, a qualifier on a Sunday, and then another qualifier the Sunday after. So 3 days, 3 ODCs of qualifiers. And we come out at the end of that, and we've got our 8 teams that are invited to the Pro League. Pro League, what did we call it? Premier Division. First Division. We called it First Division. We play our first week of First Division. And we have the roster drama. And, I mean, I don't want to go too much into the details, the ins and outs and the backgrounds, but I think it's important that people understand Gamestah's perspective of what happened there and why I took the decisions that I did. For that. So one of the things that I had seen in the Heroes of the Storm scene, which frightened me, shall we say, was the Heroes of the Storm scene has it's much smaller than Overwatch, so it's kind of a microcosm of what could happen in a scene that has unhealthy aspects to it. And what was happening on a weekly basis was a small group of players who were clearly better than everybody else would form and disband and form and disband and form and disband a team. And each time they formed a team, they'd pick somebody out from the community and into their team, and then they disband and then they'd reform and they'd pick somebody else out, and then they disband and reform, and they'd keep doing this over and over. So essentially you'd have a small core group of players that were winning the cash each week, and each week somebody else was lucky enough to be in their team. And what it did was it meant that other teams were always struggling for a steady roster. And so they were always struggling to compete, which is fantastic for the small core group that were doing this cherry picking kind of weekly poaching business. Because when it came to regional finals on a quarterly or half yearly basis or whatever, there was no competition. They just walked all over everybody, won the prizes, earned the trip or whatever it was, went overseas and absolutely fell flat in their faces because they finally faced some actual competition and they were just completely unprepared for it. And so when it came to Overwatch, I wanted to try to prevent that. Now, that was me personally deciding that, okay? That's not me sitting with a group of people and talking about it. I thought that for the Overwatch community to properly develop, I needed to put a barrier in the way of that sort of thing happening. And so the Spring Series had a roster lock in it. And the idea with the roster lock was to force teams, foolishness, I know, absolute foolishness, force teams to form a roster and to keep that roster in place for a full season. At the same time, one of the other principles that went into the design of the Spring Series was I wanted to take away the sense of can't compete, why should I bother? So that's why we had first and second division. So take the top 8 teams in the region and put them in a ring-fenced area and say, we recognize that you are the best in the region and you deserve to win some stuff. But we also want to provide a competitive experience for everybody else in the region. And so we're gonna run something for them. But what we're scared of is, well, there were a couple of things that we were worried about. So the first thing was we were worried about poaching going on in First Division. I personally was worried about poaching going on in First Division. I didn't want poaching to happen at all. I was looking at like League of Legends, the LCS, and their rosters and how they run things, and going, yeah, in order for us to reach that stage, we have to have fixed rosters. We can't have rosters changing all the time. We can't have teams poaching. So we've got to get those fixed rosters. And then the other thing is that we want to take these guys that are obviously better than the others in the region, and we want to keep them away from these guys. But at the same time, we want to reward these guys for their participation as well. And I knew, so we approached ZOWIE and said we'd like cash. We'd like X amount of money to award to First Division, and we'd like X amount of money to award to Second Division. And they went, okay, cool, we'll do that. And when, like, the amounts that we had agreed on, I knew that there would be teams in First Division who look at what was going on in Second Division and see the prize money and go, actually, I've got a better chance of winning that. We've got a better chance of winning the Second Division and guaranteeing us a certain amount of money in terms of the prizes in comparison to First Division, where we're probably going to be the wooden spooners, so maybe finish 7th or 6th even, and not be in the money. And so to kind of shore that off, once you made it into First Division, you couldn't drop back into Second Division. Once you'd earned your place in First Division, your roster was locked, you had to stick with it, all of that sort of thing. And boy, what hubris. I believe my own hubris. After that first week of competitive play, we had we were approached, and Chris again, Pulse. I mean, I can't say, like, I want to say he's a good mate. He's a good online mate, let's say, because we see eye to eye, I think, in terms of most things. But he contacted me, and I just knew. I just knew. Urgently need to talk to you, he said, something like that. And I thought, oh, okay, what's going on? And he said, before something breaks in the community, I think it was. And I was, oh, shit. Shitstorm's coming. Anyway, he came and he said, and he was really good about it. He said, we have a roster issue. We're going to make some changes, and it breaks your rules. And I fully understand if you have to remove us from First Division. He was really good. He'd read the rules. And in fact, he and all of the other individuals that were involved had gone through the rules and they knew exactly what they were heading into. And they were very good. They said, we understand what the potential consequences are and we accept them right up front. And of course, you know, if you're not in the OCE Overwatch scene, you won't know too much about it. If you're in, this will be, you know, telling you to suck eggs or whatever. You'll know all about this. But essentially, two of the players in Kick or Be Kicked were picked up by Jam, and that meant two of the players in Jam were getting thrown out. I think it was only two. And that was that. So Jam was now had two players that were outside of their official roster joining their team. Kick or Be Kicked had lost those two players. And what was the other thing? And of course, there were two players from Jam Gaming that had lost their places as well. And I mean, I was absolutely furious and exasperated. It was like, you've gone through 3 sets of qualifiers, you've played your first week, and now you tell me, quote unquote, why play with players you'll never get on with, was something that was said to me. Oh man. So they'd come and said, we know what the consequences, the potential consequences are, and we accept them. And I think probably what they'd done was they'd read the rule. We have a get out of jail free rule that says we'll consider exceptions to every single rule as long as you talk to us about them beforehand. And I think, and I don't know, somebody can respond or whatever, but I think they read that and they went, they will think that they need to have these players in their league because they are that good. And let's make no mistake about it, Jam Gaming is the #1 team in the region, together with Tempo Storm. So, like, they were it was a really, really strong roster. And I think that they kind of felt that the roster was so strong that, and for the sake of the competition, we were going to go, okay, we'll make an exception. Well, we did make an exception, but it wasn't the exception they thought we were going to make. Because what we did was, so we said, no, that's fine, you can make that roster change. But the rule is that a player may not play on one First Division team and then on another First Division team. So you can take those two players into your roster, but they can't play for you in First Division. Simple as that. So you can continue in First Division with your substitutes, or you can withdraw. And they actually chose to withdraw, so in the same way that they were probably surprised that we didn't permit them to simply make the roster change, I was surprised that they simply withdrew. But I think the thing is they didn't know. I don't blame them for withdrawing. They wanted to play as a roster, and they felt that this was how they were going to have the only way to get the strongest roster possible. And so they chose to withdraw, and they didn't realize what was going to come in the spring series. Anyway, Kick or Be Kicked, we gave them the same option. You got 4 players left, guys. You can bring on 2 substitutes, obviously non-first division substitutes, and you can continue if you wish. And they chose not to. They disbanded instead. And then Alter Ego. I mean, it was bad enough losing 2 teams right at the start. But then Alter Ego struggles with their roster, and they're unable to play their full 6 players. And they asked if they could play with the substitute. And we said, yes, sure. Bearing in mind, of course, that the substitute may not be a player on another first division team. And unfortunately, the substitute that they chose to play was Nectar. And Nectar was from Kick or Be Kicked. Anyway, they specifically asked us, can we play with Nectar? He's from Kick or Be Kicked. And EJ and I had a discussion about it, and we've just said to Jam, you cannot play with Gunba and RQT. We cannot now. We have to be consistent in our ruling when it comes to a substitute coming from Kick or Be Kicked into Alter Ego. We can't permit it. So we said no. And the argument that Alter Ego put forward was, well, hang on, Nectar's not responsible. How can you do this? But in terms of consistency of ruling, we kind of, our hands were tied there. We knew that there would be a massive shitstorm from, and rightfully so, from Jam Gaming if we didn't permit them to play GNB and RQT, but we did permit Nectar to play for Alter Ego. So we said no, there's just no ways. We can't allow it. But, and there was a but, I said to Kura, I said, but after tonight, we'll put it to the captains and the other Spring Series captains, and we'll let them take a vote. And if they agree to allow these roster changes, we'll allow it. And that's the piece that we never said to Jam. And in my defense, the only reason we didn't say it to Jam was, I think at that time, the Alter Ego thing hadn't happened. And we hadn't thought of it as an option. But we would have offered it. Had Jam sort of taken their punishment, because that's really what it was. If they had taken their punishment, their slap on the wrist, and they'd played the next week with a crippled roster, effectively, a roster with 2 substitutes, we would have then been able to make the same offer to them as we made to Alter Ego, which was, we're going to involve the team captains in the decision-making around this, and if they give the go-ahead, then we'll approve it. Anyway, Alter Ego decided, in the face of that ruling, that the best thing for them to do was to play Nectar under an alt account. And unfortunately, you can't do that with somebody who's as good at Pharah, in a Pharah meta, as Nectar. Because people instantly went, who's this guy? He's playing just like Nectar. It's got to be Nectar. And as it turned out, it was Nectar. And we even, Alter Ego even admitted to it. You know, this is not speculation or anything like that. And we had no choice but to ban them. Now, I need to make it clear that up until this point, we hadn't banned anybody. We didn't ban Jam, and we didn't ban Kick or Be Kicked. We simply said, I know it's a fine line, but we didn't ban them. We said, you may continue with your core of 4, which is within the rules, and some substitutes. And we said that to both of them. And they both choose for different reasons not to do that. Alter Ego, on the other hand, broke the rules. They played a Smurf, but also they went against an administrative ruling. We had made a competitive ruling that said you may not play Nectar, specifically Nectar. Like, even if they'd played another Smurf, they might have gotten away with it. They might have experienced some leniency, but because they played somebody we'd expressly said may not play in that particular match, we had no choice, and we banned them. So Alter Ego was banned. And here we are after the first week, or I don't know when Alter Ego got kicked out, whether it was the second week, but it was 3 teams out of 8 out of our league. Hubris. All because I thought I could set things up to make teams maintain a stable roster and to behave in a way that had the mutual interests of the OCE Overwatch scene at heart. And yeah, I believed my hubris and I was wrong. Anyway, so we lost 3 teams, and we approached 3 teams in second division. 1 Bology, 2 minutes, 1 noodles, and running with scissors. No? I'm going to have to look this up. Who is the other second division? It was 1 Bology, 2 minutes, 1 noodles, and Tempo. Not Tempo. Oh, it's the tip of my tongue. Anyway, 3 second division teams. I'll remember it in a moment. Anyway, they came in, and we said to them, you're going to pay the same $120 as everybody else for your place, and we're going to reset the league. So everybody starts at 0 again. Now, that decision, like that format and those decisions, were taken with the captain's input in mind. And I think this was one of for all of the missteps that we took in the spring series, one of the really good things that we did was we involved the organizations that were in first division with all of the first division decisions. And some of in some ways the approach was a bit ham-fisted, but for the most part, for critical decisions, we presented it to the captains and the org owners, and we said, you guys get to make this decision. What is it that you want us to do? And so various things like permitting a player who'd played for another first division team that had disbanded into another first division team, those sorts of things, they were decided by the teams themselves. Our decision to actually reset the league instead of carry the points over and try and work out something with the second division teams coming in, that was a decision that was made by the players. And I don't know of many other league or tournament administrations that take that level of input into the decision-making processes that they have. So I'm quite proud of that. I mean, that was a really good thing. And that is going to be a feature of all of our leagues going forward, is the teams that make it into the particular divisions are going to have real decision-making power over things that happen in the league. Obviously, Gamestah maintains like a veto. We can go, that's a bad decision, think about it again. We can do that. But overall, the principle still stands. We want team captains and organization owners to have a real stake in the decision-making process, and we'll always have that. And the reality is the first of those decisions was meant to be, can Nectar play for Alter Ego? But they disqualified themselves before we could even have that decision made. And in fact, at that first meeting, if I recall correctly, we had talked about that. Can a player that's in one of the disbanded teams, through no fault of their own, can they end up playing in one of the other teams? And the captains had said yes. So it was going to happen. And make no mistake, I am absolutely convinced, although this might be Hubris. No, I don't think it's Hubris. If Jam had sucked it up and played that next week with their roster with 2 substitutes, the captains would have gone, okay, we're satisfied now that these roster changes can be made. We're going to let bygones be bygones and continue as we were for the good of the league. Because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the league suffered as a result of not having Jam Gaming and not having Alter Ego playing in the league. We wanted to have a league with the top 8 teams in the region, and we had 2 of the top teams out of the league. It's as simple as that. There's no mistake. And I hope, I don't know if people know that I recognize that. I realize that. It was a really, really hard decision to make, to essentially present an untenable option to Jam. And it was a really difficult decision to ban Alter Ego, because I knew we called ourselves the Premier League in Oceania, and we really were, by dint of us being the only league. If Heroes League had done a second season at the same time as us doing our spring series, they would have had all of the top teams, and they would have been able to claim the title of being the Premier League in the region. And we wouldn't have been able to, in all good conscience. I know that. And unfortunately, the players suffered as a result. The other First Division teams suffered. I mean, absolutely, somebody got third and somebody got fourth that probably wouldn't have if Jam and Alter Ego had been playing. So in that respect, there was a minor benefit to those to those teams. But in fact, somebody might have got second and first without those teams playing. So they got that as a kind of a tiny benefit. But overall, they didn't get to play against Jam, and they didn't get to play against Alter Ego, and Jam didn't get to play against us. Like, it's just now this running thing. Jam desperately wants to play against Tempo Storm, and why not? Because Tempo Storm they hold the title for ZOWIESTAH for the spring series. They don't. Do they hold the title for ZOWIESTAH? Did they win ZOWIESTAH? Sort of, yes. With some significant roster changes, but you know, they were ranked by the power rankings guys as number 1, and Jam as number 2, and man, Jam wants to play Tempo Storm, and I don't blame them. I mean, this is the matchup of the region, is the two teams that lay claim to number 1 in the region. They need to sort it out. They need to actually have a fight and see who comes out on top. And we didn't have that in our league, and it just let me tell you, every single week when I looked at the numbers, when we had a weekly set of social media that wasn't retweeted by Jam or Alter Ego, it broke me. It almost broke me. Thank goodness it didn't. It didn't break me, but man, it was difficult, I've got to say. Not having Jam, and not least of all because of the great support that Jam Gaming gave to Gamestah early on. You know, with JAMSTAH, and with the HOTS recommendation, that sort of thing, and with the Zowie recommendation. Like, it really pained me to have put Pulse in the position that he was in. And while I questioned Pulse's decision to let his team do what they did, I fully understand it. And Pulse, I mean, I hope this gets through to you. I hope somebody at least links to you this that you realize, man, it really hurt. And it hurt not just from the sense of self-interest. My league doesn't have the top 8. It's now got 2 of the top teams out of it. Not just because of that. Not just because of the numbers on a weekly basis, but on a personal level. The sense of there's now this obstacle between me and Pulse. Anyway, I hope we can get past it and sort things out. Like, I don't think he holds any ill feeling. I'm not suggesting that, and I don't hold any ill feeling to Pulse. But I mean, it's a necessary tension that's there. You know, as an organization, I didn't let his organization take part in the stuff that I was doing. So I fully understand. Like, it's something that the two of us created together through the decisions that we made, and I absolutely accept responsibility for my part of it. And I'm sure that Pulse accepts his responsibility. I mean, he said he did. So, yeah. So it pained me on a weekly basis to be faced with this. And the final series was a fantastic success. Shout out to Gosu Gamers, Gosu TV for the host that gave us record numbers for the final series broadcast. But it was a bittersweet success. I really think that we needed to have Jam Gaming and Alter Ego in that final series. And we didn't have that. And that was non-optimal, shall we say. Non-optimal. But, you know, looking back, I'd probably have made the same decisions again, but I would have given it with more caveats. Like when I went to Jam and said, you can play with your 4, but you've got to take the hit and play with substitutes. But we're going to put it to the captains whether they're going to allow this transfer or not. I think that tiny piece of additional information would have been enough for Jam to go back to his players to say, guys, let's take the hit for 1 week and let's see if we can, it's going to be worth it. Just do it. So that's the only difference that I would have made. I don't think that I would have made a decision differently with Alter Ego. I think I made the right decision there. You can't cheat. And please, in Bobby J's podcast, Nectar called it an unfortunate administrative issue. Bro, you cheated. It's as simple as that. Call a spade a spade. Playing an expressly forbidden player in your roster and winning as a result is cheating. Okay? It's as simple as that. I mean, in fact, even if you didn't win, it's cheating. So I would have absolutely made the same decision. And it frustrated me because I'm pretty sure, given the amount of information I'd given to Alter Ego, if I'd given that to Jam Gaming would have stuck with it for at least a week and then pulled out if the captains had said, no, you can't do the transfer, which would have been perfectly understandable. Yeah, so, and who was the other one? Oh, Kick or Be Kicked. Well, they disbanded. There wasn't anything that we could do. Now, of course, one of the things that we did with the second division teams, as it came to the end of the season, and like, they showed up every week. They showed great guts, but they got pounded, man. At the end of the season, I approached the 3 of them and I said, guys, I can't. I can't in good conscience ask you to pay the fee, so Gamestah's going to pay the fee. So Gamestah actually put in the extra $120 per team into the prize pool. So thank you again to those second division team. Yeah, you guys saved the league, and I'm really grateful that you did. And I'm sorry that I appreciate the sacrifice that you gave up the potential winnings from second division, because you would have got it. 2 of you would have you would definitely have done it. So yeah, so that was the spring series from my perspective. You know, even with all of that stuff, all of the shenanigans and the roster drama and all of that stuff that went on. In fact, I think I might have that in. Yeah. Even with all of that going on, it was a really successful league just in terms of the numbers. You know, a $10,000 prize pool just so far surpassed my goals for Gamestah for this year and in fact next year. I mean, like, next year is a blank sheet, because my plans had a $5,000 tournament next year, and we managed to do it this year already, double it. So, you know, tremendously successful in that respect. And in terms of what we've been able to deliver to our sponsors, absolutely fantastic. We more than doubled the brand exposure that we were able to provide. We had some revelations around our social media, like we got some really, really good stuff that I'm not going to share because self-interest. Self-interest is going to start winning here at Gamestah a bit more than mutual interest. I'm sorry. So it was a fantastic success, and I am quietly optimistic that Zowie is going to look at what we did and what we were able to produce and go, fantastic. We want to be involved with whatever Gamestah does next. So here's hoping. So other stuff. Oh, I should change. Here we go. OCE Overwatch. I've been talking about that for a long time. Okay, so other stuff. So I've got the power rankings, and I'll just be careful what I say here, because EJ has he and I have talked about things, and he's got some specific, very, very strong feelings about what should or shouldn't be said in public. But of all of the things that happened in this year's Overwatch stuff in the OCE Overwatch community, the thing that hurt the most was having to say to Pulse, "Sorry, mates, I'm not going to allow this roster change. You can play with that." That was the thing that was the most painful. But number two, and it's a close second, was what happened with the power ranking. So remember I said to you, like, everything that I've done with the OCE Overwatch community has been measured and with some specific goals in mind, and with this sense of mutual interest at heart. Well, one of the things that Gamestah did right at the very beginning was we started the OCE Overwatch power rankings. And I'm going to level with you. So I had two sets of power rankings to draw from in terms of experience. The one was Peanut Gallery's power rankings of CSGO teams in the region, and the other one was the Rocket League power rankings, which was originally convened and managed and administered or whatever by BBears. So I had those two as my kind of examples of how power rankings can work. Now, the Peanut Gallery stuff, they do it themselves. So Peanut, I don't think that they have people from the community contributing rankings or anything like that. It's something they do in-house, and they publish it. When they publish it, they bought a database and a stats engine, and they use that. I don't know to what extent it's influenced or whether it derives directly from that. I don't really know. I just know that it's in-house. So it's the Peanut Gallery power rankings for CSGO. And then on the other hand, on the other end of the scale, you've got the Rocket League power rankings. And for a long time, the Rocket League power rankings were completely independent of any organization, just run by BBears and by BBears alone. And it's now kind of a Rocket League Oceania project. And I was involved with the Rocket League power rankings from the very beginnings of it. No, I lie. Maybe a month after it had started, I was invited, or a couple of months after it started. So I was invited onto the power rankings, the Rocket League panel, by BBears because of the fact that I was the lead shoutcaster for Rocket League at the time. So Gamestah was pumping out Rocket League content. We had a great place in the community. Unfortunately, it was somebody else's content mostly. So it was mostly Cybergamers content. And I say unfortunately because it wasn't our content. Not just because, it's Cybergamer. We were pumping out content. We were doing great things for the community as far as we were concerned. Like Cybergamers' first season where they had their Rocket League finals at LAN, their grand final had 700 people watching it, in comparison to the grand final for CSGO, which had like 350. And that grand final result, there were a number of factors, but a large part of it was through the efforts of Gamestah, the Gamestah Casters, the community, and our relationship with the community, as well as our sort of connections with overseas. Like we built up a good relationship with Rocket League Central, that sort of thing. So we were really in. We were in with the Rocket League crowd, and I was heavily involved. And so I was quite, in the grand scheme of things, in terms of having an opinion about a team and their prospects and their power ranking, I was well qualified. Anyway, I was involved with Rocket League for a year, and BBears handed over the management of it to this other guy, and within like a month I got kicked. I was so mad. I got kicked, and the reasons I was kicked were all things that other people had done. It was just, I was so mad. I felt so hard done by. Anyway, so those were my two examples: the Rocket League community and it was power rankings and the Peanut Gallery power rankings. And I looked at that and I went, I want to do power rankings for this community, but I also want Gamestah to actually have less uncertainty. I didn't want the whims of the manager to end up excluding me and in fact all of Gamestah. Like, they reconvened the panel and they completely excluded Gamestah from it. There wasn't anybody, no Gamestah casters. Didn't matter what we contributed to the scene or how involved we were or anything like that. Suddenly it was somebody else's baby. And that really, that frustrated me. And I wanted to avoid that. But at the same time, I didn't want to act purely from self-interest. I also wanted to act from mutual interest. And so Gamestah convened the panel. And I was very careful about how I convene it. I put together like a conventions document, like a constitution, you could call it that. This is how we're going to run the panel. If you come onto the panel, you're going to agree to this. And then we invited people. And essentially, because it was a Gamestah project, the first panel was essentially chosen by Gamestah. So Bobby J at the time was our main caster. And so he was on the panel straight away. And then we invited various people. And we invited Fugs. And Fugs we invited because he was running OverwatchANZ.com. And the other thing that I had done was because I didn't want it to be like a Gamestah version of the Peanut Gallery thing. I wanted it to be a community-owned thing. So I had approached Fugs and I had said to him, would you like to be on the panel, firstly? And secondly, can we publish it on OverwatchANZ.com? So that it's a community project as opposed to a Gamestah project. And Fugs was very generous and he said absolutely, and he got well involved into it. And in fact, I think even today, the graphics that are being used originate with Fugs. The banner was mine, and I think they might have changed the banner. But the rankings stuff, the images, in fact, they might have changed that as well. I haven't looked at it for a while. And then we had, I think we had Hades on it as well. Oh, Jameb was on it. And I can't remember who the other original member was, but 4 or 5 people. And we did Overwatch power rankings from that point onwards. And they generated controversy quite often. There was some, man, Bobby J got such stick from the community with his first couple of rankings because of some of the rankings that he had done. It was tough to start off with for some of the committee members. But it was great because people were talking about teams. The community was getting engaged, and that's half of the purpose as far as I'm concerned with power rankings. It's not just kind of, well done to you for a team. It's also about giving something centralized that the community can talk about. Oh, no, I don't think Jam should be second. They should be first. Chiefs is not as good. Or vice versa, or whatever the case may be. And each week, it was fantastic for me. I did the admin behind it. I got to, compile the tournament results. I had a great spreadsheet. I, in fact, have pretty much the history of OCE Overwatch in the early days because I compiled and gathered all of the tournament results in a spreadsheet. And I might actually link that in the description. Of all of the prior results, I put together like a hasty kind of sorting type of things to try and figure out who who's active and who isn't, because the scene was very, very much in flux. Well, still is very much in flux. And it was great. And then some stuff happened during the spring series. And this is where I was talking about right at the beginning, where there are some individuals and possibly some organizations who feel a bit hard done by decisions that I've made or things that Gamestah has done. And some stuff happened, and I have no doubt that out of the stuff that happened, these other decisions got made. But all of a sudden, the power rankings were not being convened by Gamestah, and I was completely excluded from it. That hurt. That hurts. So guys, the guys who did that, who took that decision, if part of your intention was to stick a knife into me, fucking well done. You absolutely got it right. Man, I was hurt about that. That was something that I had put a lot of time and effort into. It was something that I really felt was a true reflection of my goals for the OCE Overwatch community, where Gamestah had a prominent role. That's my self-interest coming through, absolutely. Gamestah had an important, valid role in it, but it was also a community project. So it wasn't being published on overwatchanz.com anymore. It was now on OCEoverwatch.com, and rightfully so, the center of the Overwatch community. But it was still a collaboration. And at the time that I was, the last panel that I was involved with, it had a range of people from the community. Hayes, who was running Cybergamer at the time, and captain of one of the teams, Redact from Tempo Storm, a manager and part-time player, as it turned out towards the end there, Bobby J, who was, even though he wasn't casting for Gamestah anymore, still a prominent caster within the region. And was it Xenox? I think Xenox was the other one, a freelance caster. And that was, so, it's a wide range. We had somebody from Gamestah, we had a freelancer involved, we had OCE Overwatch. In fact, Rick was on it as well. OCE Overwatch involved. It was a community collaboration. And now it's not. Now it's OCE Overwatch's baby, I think. I don't know. I think, well, I'm pretty sure they do own it. I contacted Ronnie, who has been a great supporter of Gamestah previously and is one of the admins at OCE Overwatch. And I contacted Ben as well. And I said, dudes, what the fuck? The only apology I got was, I'm sorry, our communication to you wasn't good enough. Fuck it. Anyway, but be that as it may, the power rankings thing, that wasn't a great experience for me. But you know what, guys, you can have it, and hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it's a growth from the good foundation that I created. And if you're still using my spreadsheet, if you took a copy of it, and you're still using my original document and the process that I laid out, that's great. If you've thought of something on your own, that's fantastic as well. Full credit to B-Bears, who gave me the basis of the template. So I built on his work for sure, on the spreadsheet and the process and the approach. Full credit. I learned a lot from the way that B-Bears ran things. So yeah, hopefully it goes from there. So that's the first one, power rankings. Then the spring series drama, which I've gone to at length. So I skipped the thing there, and then casters. Now I'm going to be very careful again here what I talk about or how I frame things here, because there's definitely some things that do need to remain private. There've been people who've tried to call me out in public and try to goad me into saying something in public. And I've successfully resisted that, mainly at the prompting of EJ, because he doesn't want me to cause any drama or anything like that. But the casting situation at Gamestah has been very weird for a long time. What happened with the spring series and with the casters that were doing casting of Overwatch for Gamestah isn't actually that different to what's been happening at Gamestah for years now. For years and years and years, we've had people coming to Gamestah to say, hey, we want to cast, can you take us on? And we've gone, yes, come and cast with us. We'll teach you everything that we know. We'll give you opportunities to cast. If you do well with us and you grow as a caster, we'll fly you to LAN events where you'll get to cast at those. We'll do whatever we can to support you in becoming a great caster. And all we ask in return is that you cast for Gamestah and not for anybody else. Now, I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing. You know, when an organization puts together a roster of players and provides that roster of players with support, competitive opportunities, flies them to LAN events, gives them gear, that sort of stuff, they expect that player to play for their team. And when it comes to a competition, they expect that player to represent them well, to be tagged up under their organization banner, to promote the organization sponsors, and most certainly not to arrive at the LAN event, for example, and go and play for a competing team. It's simply, that's a no-brainer. Like what I've described to you, everyone's going, why are you saying that? That's obvious. Well, we expected that sort of thing with Gamestah, where we would provide both commentating or broadcasting opportunities, but a lot of training, a lot of support, and increasingly more than that, opportunities to go to LAN, but increasingly things like various pieces of gear and other sort of promotional activities that I won't necessarily go into at this stage. Now, it's been difficult for a long time because we've been a volunteer organization and because we've been at the beck and call of other organizations because we haven't been running our own tournaments. So it's been very difficult for us to generate revenue ourselves because the only place that we can generate revenue is to go to organizations that we're going to do broadcasting and we can say to them, you should pay us for doing your broadcasting. And they will just go, we've got this guy over here, he'll do it for free. Why would we pay you? And we put down what the advantages are, why to do it, why you should pay us instead of do it, to some amateur who's doing it for free. And they just laugh anyway, and they just take the guy to do it for free. So if we want to do content, we have to do it for free ourselves. So we've been in a position where we have not been able to generate revenue for ourselves. So it's very difficult when you're not earning money to actually pay other people money. So we haven't, over the last several years, we haven't been in a position where we could go to commentators and we could say, right, if you commentate for Gamestah, here's a package that we're going to provide to you. We're going to provide you with some shirts for your uniform. We're going to provide you with a green screen. We're going to provide you with flights and accommodation to 3 LAN events in the year. We're going to provide you with gear from our sponsors. You're all going to get a headset. You're going to get a monitor. We have not been able to do that because we have not been earning anything. So we haven't been able to do it. So it's kind of been this kind of mutually risky thing. We'll do all of this other promotional stuff, all the soft stuff. Get you on our Twitter, promote you heavily, all of that sort of stuff. And in return, all we ask of you is that you are a member of Gamestah, you represent Gamestah, you attend LAN events as Gamestah, and you push our sponsors if we ever get sponsors, and you behave like you are a part of our team. Now, this year, that has started to change. For the first time in I don't know how long, we've actually been able to earn revenue. And the key has been getting us out of this independent caster mold, because nobody will pay for broadcasting. Nobody. They simply won't. Because there's Muppets out there who will do it for free. Simple as that. That's the raw truth. If you're watching this and you're a broadcaster and you do shit for free, you're part of the problem. Anyway, we're now in a position to start earning revenue. We're getting our own sponsors, we're running our own tournaments, and initially at the start of this, we've in fact, this year has been net outflow. So even though we've had $10,000 worth of prizes put up by Zowie and by Split Media Labs for the spring series, we've still had a net outflow. The amount of money that I have invested in Gamestah this year runs in the tens of thousands of dollars, and it's money well spent. But the point is that for the first time, we now have sponsors. We have actual revenue coming in, and we can make decisions about where that revenue goes. Now, for the first whole bunch of time, the first several months, the revenue decision was simple: goes to prizes. Simple. But at the end of this year, some of the revenue that we had can go to other places. And EJ and I have already been talking about exactly what we're going to be doing with that money. We don't want to just spend it foolishly. We want to invest it well, but we still want money that has come to us from sponsors to be invested in the business. I'm not interested in recouping my costs at this stage. I accept that for the next while we're going to have net outflows, and that's fine. I've got money that's in fact Gamestah has got money that we've set aside for next year, and we're totally okay with that happening. We're not interested in recouping any of that. So money that's come, revenue that's been generated, we're looking at the best bang for the buck. Now that we've paid out all of our prizes, what do we do with the rest of it? So up until even and including the spring series, we've not been able to go to our casters and say to you, hey guys, you are going to be contracted to Gamestah, and as part of that contract, here's the benefits that you receive, and here's the obligations that you will pay out. And another way of looking at it is these are Gamestah. So the benefits that you receive are the obligations Gamestah has to pay out or to provide. And on this end, your obligations as a caster. The other way is these are the benefits Gamestah expects to receive. Okay, so I fully understand that is the place that we want to be at in terms of an organization with our casters. And something happened. So before that, before we could get to that stage, we were still in this kind of limbo area where all we could say to casters is, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. And we absolutely have done that, I feel, without question. When we first started casting Overwatch, we were approached by Bobby J. And Bobby J was originally a caster with Gamestah from years and years and years ago. And he said, I want to be the voice of Overwatch in Oceania. And I said, that's fantastic. We'll make you the voice of Overwatch. We'll put everything we can behind it. Now, and that's how we behaved. And we have treated each of our casters in a similar fashion. So the casters have kind of expressed what they want to do, and we've gone, okay, we'll support that as much as we possibly can. And I have this thing that I say to people who join Gamestah. This kind of like speech that I make, where I talk about how we've had people come and go, and come and go, and come and go, and we're trying to get past that. And this is the plan to get past the coming and going. And this is the goal that we're trying to get to with our casters, where you're contracted with us and you've got benefits that are coming to you from Gamestah, and you know what those benefits are, and there's expectations on you, and you know what those expectations are, and we're all working together for this greater good that is all of us trying to end up working in esports. Because let's face it, that's what we all want to do, okay? And so I'm certain I've had that speech with each of the people that came on board to cast with Gamestah, and whether it was an assumption or not, I made the assumption that what we were doing was mutually beneficial. But part of that mutual benefit was that the casters who were casting on a regular basis for Gamestah were members of Gamestah. And a series of conversations happened kind of midway through the season where we realized that the cast, for the most part, the casters who were casting for us didn't feel that way. They didn't feel a part of Gamestah. They wanted to cast Gamestah's content. Sound familiar? But they didn't want to be a part of Gamestah. And, you know, in terms of things that hurt, man. Fuck. Anyway, we still just obviously don't have the mix right. There's something in our approach to things where, for whatever reason, people don't want to be a part of that. They want to be involved for their own self-interest, but they don't necessarily have Gamestah's interests at heart. And I accept responsibility for that. I'm co-owner of Gamestah, and so it's my responsibility to create an environment where people don't just want to do stuff on the periphery of us, don't want to simply benefit from what we're doing, but they actually want to be a part of the greater journey and want to contribute in a meaningful, in a way that's more meaningful simply than doing stuff they were going to do anyway. Because let's face it, even those people who've stopped casting for Gamestah during the year, they're still casting. It's not that they're not casting. So, you know, we've had a number of people come into the door and go out over this past year. And it's not as though they've retired from the scene entirely. They're continuing to do what they would have done, what they'd been doing for Gamestah. It's just that they're doing it for somebody else now. So there's something. I haven't got that mix right, and it's something that often keeps me awake at night, where I want to be able to create an environment where casters don't just cast for us or simply cast our content. They want to be a part of Gamestah. Got to figure it out. And I'm really not sure what the solution is. We've got some plans. EJ and I have some plans for next year that will hopefully make the difference. But it became it was kind of this like mid-season revelation where we realized that all of the guys that were casting for us weren't actually interested in being a part of Gamestah, a member of Gamestah. They just wanted to be able to be involved with our leagues. And that's fine. That is really fine. And, you know, we haven't said no, that's not acceptable to any of the casters. You can't have access to our content unless you're a member. We haven't said that. We've gone, okay, fine. There is still a mutual benefit to you casting our content. There is enough benefit to you casting our content that we would like you to continue casting our benefit. But anybody who's been involved with the scene will know that there's a bunch of stuff that we've stopped doing. I'm going to level with you guys. If you are a member of Gamestah, I will put the full weight of Gamestah behind your brand, your personal brand. It's as simple as that. And I know that I've done that with certain people that have casted with us. For as long as I thought they were members of Gamestah, I didn't just treat them as on-screen talent. I treated them as a member of Gamestah. And, you know, the stats that I put forward to our sponsors in terms of how well we've exposed their brand, that is something that I measure Gamestah internally against as well in terms of our casters. So Kit Fox, who is a member of Gamestah and has been a member of Gamestah for almost 10 years now, he's a long-standing member. One of the expectations I place on myself is that Kit Fox's personal brand gets promoted. So the same stats that I have worked out for Zowie, the same approach to promoting their brand, I need to hold myself to account in the same way with Kit Fox's brand. And that goes for every other caster that is in Gamestah. So, Skimmy, Starving, Gamestah casters in the Heroes of the Storm thing. the same expectation in terms of, am I promoting their brand as well as I should be, I place on myself. Now, when you go so far as to say, I'm not a member of Gamestah, in as many words, when you go so far as to say, I refuse to tag up as Gamestah, like that's like a basic thing in esports, man. If you join an esports team, you tag up as the team when you're in game. It's as simple as that, man. Like, nobody argues with that. You don't join Alter Ego and tag up as Jam unless you're a sub and you've been, absolutely. If you're a sub and you've been loaned for that week, then absolutely you tag up as Jam Jimeb, for example. And he did that. I remember that's happened a couple of times. And the message is there. Oh, okay, he's playing for the Chiefs this week, but he's actually on loan from Jam Gaming. You tag up. It's as simple as that. And we asked our casters to tag up as us, and we were told, no, we won't tag up as you. Now, that to me says, oh, okay, actually, you're not a member of Gamestah. You're casting for us, and there is a mutual benefit involved in that, absolutely, and we appreciate what you're doing. But you've just told me that you are not a member of Gamestah. And it's not about Gamestah owning you or owning the rights to your content even, or owning your talent or anything like that. It's simply you are a member of Gamestah, just like you might have as a player been a member of another team. It's as simple as that. And it became very clear during in mid-season that almost all of the people who were casting for us actually didn't feel that they were a member of Gamestah. Now, I confess that there is a group of people who I haven't actually said, do you want to be a member of Gamestah? I've simply assumed that they don't want to. There's OCE Overwatch, if there's a broadcast on, you know who's going to be casting. Bobby J, Xenox, Genome, Doctor, sometimes Avril. Or every event is going to be casted by them. And I will confess that I've never actually gone to, other than Bobby J, I haven't gone to the other three and said, would you like to be a member of Gamestah? And this is what it means for you to be a member of Gamestah. I've simply assumed they want to be freelance because they cast everything. Now that's maybe a mistake of mine to do that. But we realized that there were these freelancers, and we initially thought that Bobby was felt he was a member of Gamestah, and he said, no, actually I'm not. And so we went, oh, okay, well, we'll adjust our expectations. And so Bobby's actually a freelancer as well. So at the end of the season, I mean, we had to very quickly adjust our approach, because we started off going, Gamestah casters cast Gamestah content. That's our ideal. And we only use freelancers when we have to. And we've had to change that. We now use freelancers just like everybody else does. But we'd like to get away from that. We'd like to think that we can offer casters something special that incentivizes them away from being a freelancer. Now, I don't know if we can, because it might just be that I think that people want something differently to what they actually want. So, it might be a fool's errand that I've set for myself, but who knows? So we're at the stage where, we will invite freelancers, and there will be mutual benefits to the freelance casters. They will cast for us. That's a benefit to us, and they get access to our content. And like I say, I mean, we were fortunate. I'll give credit where credit is due, that we weren't competing with Heroes League for effectively our second season of League, the spring series, because they were doing whatever they were doing. So we have had the premier content. Now, Summer Series is coming. The Heroes League Summer Series, I should say, because, don't be confused. The Spring Series was us. Summer Series is not us. They're doing the Summer Series, and it's going to be great. They have some backers with deep pockets, it seems. They've got great production value, and they will attract the top teams, and they'll have good prizes as well. So that's going to be fantastic. Now, I 100% believe that what Gamestah is going to be doing in 2017 is going to provide the premier competition for Overwatch in the region. Doesn't matter what anybody else does or says. I'm convinced of that. And I will work my backside off to make that happen. Now, whether I succeed or fail, we will judge in this podcast next year, at the end of next year. Who knows what happens? But, you know, I've got to believe that that's what I'm doing. Otherwise, what's the point? So I'm convinced that I will be able to provide, that Gamestah will be able to provide the best possible competitive broadcasting available there, and a package available that we will be able to bring casters on board as members of Gamestah, rather than them saying, actually, no, I want to be a freelancer. Whether we can achieve that or not, like I say, you know, next year's podcast will be the judge of that. So, you know, unfortunately, we got to a stage, and I'll tread very carefully, where where we had to start making some decisions around our around who was going to be casting for us, and we had some very tough decisions to make. We had one very tough decision to make, and we made it, for better or worse. And here we are with our current caster situation. So, you know, EJ is a play-by-play caster that is unmatched. He might not have the best Overwatch knowledge, but he brings something to casting, to a broadcast, that others don't. People are rolling on the floor laughing when he casts. Like, there's something about the guy. It's difficult to put my finger on it, but he's got a unique voice. And I guess if you read any sportscasting tutorials or books or anything like that, it's really important to have your own voice. And EJ has a voice that doesn't have a match in Oceania at the moment. And then our other full-time caster is KitFox. And KitFox, again, has got years and years and years and years of experience casting, and he's done a wide range of content. And he's relatively new to Overwatch casting because, like I say, you know, I personally thought that we had casters in Gamestah that I was putting all of my energy behind. And that has changed. And just as that happened, like, I was sitting there going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I thought I had these dudes that wanted to be a part of our journey, and they don't. What am I going to do? And KitFox put up his hand, and KitFox said, well, actually, I want to cast Overwatch. You know, so he's been doing our Heroes of the Storm hosting. He's been a League of Legends caster for us. He didn't want to cast Heroes of the Storm because he felt his game knowledge wasn't that high. But he wanted to do Overwatch, and so fantastic. So we're going to be promoting KitFox heavily. We'll be promoting EJ heavily as well, but to a lesser extent because of EJ's kind of personal situation. He travels a lot for work. And we are going to be looking for a partner in crime for KitFox. Really? That's what it comes down. Or partners in crime for KitFox. And we will be throwing the weight of the Gamestah promotion and broadcasting machine behind those individuals through 2017. In as much as we are doing that, we are going to be doing that for our sponsors of our various tournaments. And we will continue to use freelancers because we don't have anything against individual freelancers. We understand if you want to be a freelancer, that's great. And there are some great talents out there that we will continue to try to use. I will say, if you say that you don't want to work with us, then we won't. You know, that's fine. I mean, that is your choice. But we will at Gamestah, I mean, make no mistake, we will continue to promote members of Gamestah much more heavily than anybody else. Our freelancers or freelancers that come on board, we will promote as well, because again, there's a mutual, benefit to us promoting a freelancer, who's well known in the scene and who has good prestige, a personal brand, personal prestige. It benefits us to promote them just as much as it benefits them to promote us. So we'll continue doing that and hopefully do a very good job about it. But yeah, we are going to be looking for people who are prepared to put a Gamestah shirt on, wear the Gamestah logo, tag up as Gamestah, and represent us, not just on screen for the specific broadcast that they do, but also in the overall community and in front of sponsors at LAN events and things like that. So I'm conscious that I've come to 2 hours. So let me just move on very quickly and do some special thanks. To our sponsors, firstly, ZOWIE, who have given us over $10,000 worth of prizes to give to Overwatch players. Thank you very much. Special shout out to Dan Natalie. Looking forward to meeting him hopefully in January when I am in Sydney. Fantastic supporters of Gamestah, and I really do hope that we are able to work further with you guys. I truly believe that we've given great value to ZOWIE, so I hope that continues. So shout out to ZOWIE, fantastic monitors. Split Media Labs, who provide XSplits, Challenge, and Player.me. Again, they gave us $5,000 worth of XSplit licenses, and a lot of people, it's so strange, people looked at that and went, oh well, we can't stream, so how is that worth anything? Man, you can record your gameplay and build a YouTube YouTube following without having good internet, man. Come on guys, get creative, and XSplit is fantastic for that. And I've given lots of people training on how to use XSplit. I know that it is a really good product. It is absolutely a fantastic product. Challenge is fantastic, and I can just see there that my autocorrect changed it to Challenge. Challenge, great platform for running tournaments. We will be running all of our tournaments in 2017 on Challenge. It's just great. And Player.me, which is a social media site for gamers. So Gamestah's got I think 46 followers on there, up from 0 at the beginning of October. So we signed up in October and we've got 46 followers, and we're going to hopefully grow that just as well. Plantronics, who are our official headset suppliers and were in fact the first organization to sponsor Gamestah and to start us off on the road with JAMSTAH, and in fact with the MVP program. So shout out to Plantronics, who've supported us, and we hope to work with them as well. Jam Gaming, of course, not only for the initial Overwatch tournament, the JAMSTAH contribution that they had made, but also for that tip, sending Dan our way from ZOWIE. Fantastic. Shout out to Jam. And of course, Ronnie's Custom Gear, who did the mug promotion. And I think that was again a mutually beneficial thing, Ronnie gave us the ZOWIE, the mugs through the spring series. He gave it to us at cost, and I'm pretty sure that he's made some good sales as a result of the promotions. In fact, those of you involved in the community know that a lot of people think that OCE Overwatch is something about giving away mugs, and they also play Overwatch, which is fantastic. It's great for Ronnie's Custom Gear, the brand. So shout out for your support as well. I don't have them on the list, but a shout out to Blizzard as well for 2 great titles, Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, and in fact the opportunities that they are presenting to us for 2017, which we won't talk about in this podcast. Also, thank you to our volunteers. The casters that have casted for us, whether you're a member of Gamestah or a freelancer, thank you very, very much for doing what you've done for Gamestah in 2016, and hope to see you guys back on screen with us in 2017. You've put in a lot of hours, and without doing any sort of, in no particular order. Thank you to Bobby J, Xenox, Genome, Gaimar, Doctor, EJ, Kitfox, who else is casted? HEYGRL, and who else is casted? All of the guests that we've had, Jameb and Mix05, all of those dudes who've come on and given us expert analysis or opinion as well. Thanks to all of the admins and the other helpers within Gamestah. We've had a lot of people sort of do stuff for us for a couple of months and then move on, or whatever the case may be. So thanks again, and if I leave out a name, please forgive me, but again, in no particular order, Josh Kent, Squizzy, Wolfie, got to say thank you to Biza as well, caster and admin, and a huge support during our Rocket League thing. And Super Roach behind the scenes, doing a lot of technology development for us. And there's lots and lots of others. And then, this has been mainly about OCE Overwatch. So a thank you to the OCE Overwatch teams who have competed in various ways in our tournaments and who've talked about us, retweeted our tweets, being involved in Gamestah's journey this year. Thanks very much for that. And that's it. So just over 2 hours. If you've made it this far, well done. I could probably talk for another 2 hours, but who wants to listen to that right now? So thank you again for listening. And yeah, I mean, it's been it's been great talking to you, and thanks for tuning in, and hopefully I'll have another one in a little while longer. This is Chrisis signing out. Oh, I had a low third and everything prepared. There I am. Thanks for joining us. See ya.